All right. Welcome to the webinar. I've entitled it Becoming More of Yourself. So, becoming more of yourself. And some of you may have noticed the way I titled it. The self has a capital S.
Mm,
That's important. So, yourself
mm,
and that self has a capital S. So, that'll be something that, we'll point to in a minute. Um, as you know, mostly on these webinars, I say the same thing over and over again. And the hardest thing that I have to do is to come up with a new title every time, right? But basically, nothing alters in terms of what we discuss, what we talk about. It's pretty much the same thing, and I just need new titles. So as we go through and discussing it. So today it's about becoming more of yourself. And as usual, I would suggest that you consider as you're joining in your own intention in this next hour that we're together. So, because what we're doing is we are exploring this topic. And so, in any exploration, I'm going to invite you to listen and to participate in the exploration with from your own intention. Now, when I say that, here's the thing: you're always listening with intention. So I'm not asking you to do anything. What I'm really asking you to do is to notice the intention from which you are listening. So intention and having intention is not something you actually do. It's something you can notice or not notice. So sometimes we are engaged with others, we're reading a book, and we're coming from an intention of, do I agree with this or not agree with this? I want to know if this is right or if it's wrong. I can't figure out whether this is true or not. So these intentions sit in the background and we just don't even notice them. So when I say I'm inviting you to listen with intention, I'm suggesting it's notice the intention that is already there. And here's what happens when you notice the intention that is there, this has you be conscious of what is already there. In becoming conscious of your own intentions, I being conscious is different than being asleep. So to be conscious while doing something, aware while doing something, I might even say would be to be deliberate about how you're engaged in anything. You become deliberate. So again, that often is construed as, oh, set an intention, be deliberate, but that would make it sound like you're doing. What I'm suggesting is simply notice. And if you notice intention, there, as you become conscious of it, it's you can look to how you might be in this moment in a way that is important to you, in a way that is aligned with what's important to you and what your we'll leave it at that. Now what I mean, again, even in that, in what's important to you, that is also a noticing. So if you take a moment to think my intention, you could listen here from the place of what's important. And there's not a lot you have to do to think about what's important. All you have to do is just notice where your attention goes when I say that. It's to listen from what's important. Listen to what's of value to you. And your mind will move into things. Well, my relationship's important to me, or my lack of relationship could be important to me. So, my business is important to me, my career is important to me, where I'm living is important to me. So, you'll just notice that there are things that are important. And as you're listening from those things, your listening automatically starts to relate and connect with what's important to you and what is of value to you. And that'll be unique for each of us. So take a second to think about that and and where your mind goes. And so as we're talking, listen from there. Like, what's this got to do with my business anyway? What's this got to do with my career? What does this have to do with making money? So just listen from whatever comes up. So we'll step back to becoming more of yourself. So this is what we're exploring, is becoming more of yourself. And if you think about that, the first thing, I always try and get this straight up front. So the self, as I said, has a capital S. So I'm not pointing to yourself as many of us might think of ourselves, which is the one who showed up here, the one who's listening, the one who's like that. So there's more to you than you think. Who you are, the true self, is far more than you think. So can say this in different ways, and I draw a lot on the teachings of both Sydney Banks and the teachings of Abraham Hicks. I'll preface that up front and in many of the things I talk about. So who you are is pure source energy consciousness. That's the way Abraham Hicks says it. Sydney Banks said who you are is the energy of all things. The energy of all things. Who you are is far more than who showed up here. When you talk about the energy of all things, or this pure source energy consciousness, what that's pointing to is the essence of all. And when we talk about energy, then that energy or that essence, that is who you really are, is indivisible from any other person or thing, any other thing. So when I say becoming more of yourself, that self with a capital S is about becoming more of who you really are. That's what we're exploring here. And now I want to refer to this becoming. This will be consistent with if you've ever participated in anything I do, if you're ever in any of my coaching programs like Deliberate Creator or any of that. So this idea of becoming is not something that you do. Becoming is what is already happening, which you can notice if you pay some attention to it. So people say, this is great. I saw the webinar. It's called Becoming More of Yourself, and that's exactly what I want. I want to learn how I can become more of myself. And that isn't anything to learn. You are already becoming more of yourself. That is what is always happening. Who you are is constantly expanding and becoming and expressing and experiencing more of who you are. That will go on eternally. So no doing in that, only something you can notice if you pay attention. And then there's a question in that statement potentially might arise to you is, well, but who exactly am I becoming? So who you are and are becoming, in what direction is that going in? Do I have any say about it at least? And you can begin to notice in what direction you are expanding and becoming more. How it looks to you in this physical finite form, the feeling of it here, is felt as desire. So as who you are and as you live life expands and becomes more and more and more of yourself. In other words, more potential is accessed, is and the essence of you. As that begins to happen from this finite perspective as you live your life, you can feel there's more to you than this. You literally will feel it. You'll feel there's more to me than this. What you're feeling is the potential, this expanded version of you. And then what we do is we translate. We have this feeling and interpret it. And in the interpretation is, oh, I get it. I'd be in a relationship. And this becomes this interpretation of this more expanded being. This who I've become is I used to not be, and now I would be, because this would be a more expanded version of me. I'd have a different career. I would have a bigger business, doing different things. I would make a difference in the world. I'd be doing these activities or those activities. So we're interpreting this expansion of who we are becoming, and we interpret it in a way that we can perceive it from here. And that we feel as a desire, as a wanting. And here's the thing about that. So that's the direction that this goes, is in becoming more of that being with relative to those things, either in a bigger business, in a career, in a relationship, having more of an impact. And in becoming that, here's the pitfall. We can latch onto our interpretation of this becoming that is happening. And as we latch onto it and we say, oh, I'm not in a relationship, and this feeling of expansion is that I would be. This feeling of expansion is that I would be doing different things. I would live in a different place. And then we get hooked into that, and I could say fixated on it, potentially, and attached to this interpretation, this translation of that infinite energy. And then we're hooked to this translation. Instantly, we get resistance. We are now no longer expanding or becoming that. So having these objectives or these desires and noticing them are very useful insofar as they point us back to the feeling and the energy of what this means to have expanded, who I've become. It's a more loving, more blissful, more joyful, more abundant being. But when I hook that on to, and that means I would have more money, and that means I would live in a different place, it can quickly turn into an attachment. And here's the thing, the interpretation was made from you, this finite perspective, rather than from your bigger perspective, the bigger mind that is you. And what a shame to anchor yourself and limit yourself into the thinking of this finite perspective, rather than allowing that being to come through and expand who you are and expand your own mind and your own thinking. So that, as that becomes allowed, is an effortless allowing, an effortless becoming more and more of yourself. So why don't I pause there? I want to leave lots of time, but would love to interact around how this might be relevant to you, or what does this mean for anything that you're focused on, or anything that you're interested in, anything that's important to you. Raise hands is under reactions, and you can raise your hand and we can just start. Hey, Michaela, thanks for being number one.
Hey, Dominic. Well, nice to see
Hi.
you. So I'm just going to put you on speaker so I can see you. There you go.
Great.
So it's kind of muddly, but there was something that I just wanted to confirm. The whole idea about intentions and being deliberate. And there's a little bit of language converting here. But when I invite someone to just notice things, notice what they're thinking first, typically seeing it and feeling it in the body. Our amazing communication tool that says hello, and then noticing. And it's like the noticing is the sort of the interruption of that energy. But the noticing, the idea about intention, we are already, with whatever we're thinking, being intentional and deliberate by sort of default as a human.
Well,
am I getting this right?
Yeah, let's look. So
Yeah.
we always have intention. We're not always aware that we have intention. Oh, I'm just here at this webinar. I'm just here to check it out, just sort of see what there is going on, right? We're not aware that there are intentions. And, even speaking for me, I'm often reading books or attending things as in, do I agree with this? Do I already know this? So and that's the default. And where did that come from? My God, it's been going on forever. From a young age. It's like I'm trying to understand it, trying to be smart with it, trying to determine whether I agree or disagree and whether I can debate it or not. Right?
Mm.
So that is intentional and it's completely conditioned. See, that's not a true intention. So I'm distinguishing true intention
Yeah.
from, yeah, see, I also have true intention. And it's certainly not that.
Yeah. Can I bring a current thing to mind just to see
Please.
how this? Okay, thank you. I've been writing copy for my website, rewriting it, and it's quite annoying actually, because the more I explore, it changes all the time. So I'm just like, okay, it's already outdated and it's not even published, and I'll just go with it. But I can see in this process of the idea of, and it's easier for me to see it with others. I've helped people to see how they're focusing on what they don't want in this way of, excuse me, in this way of, well, I know I don't want that, but, and thinking that they're looking to what they want. But in doing that, they're still kind of focused on that.
Very
So
good.
they keep getting what they don't, it's like I'm working with people on body things right now. So, one feeling good, seeing the scale, and then not feeling good. And then exploring what they're focused on. They're focusing on, well, I need to lose weight and I need to adjust this. And I said, well, what do you want? What do you want? What do you really, well, I want to lose some weight. And it's like, why? So I'm saying this process I've taken them through because I'm finding it really difficult to put myself through the same process and sort of have my attention going to. So in this one case, he did that for 2 weeks and he didn't look at the scale and he didn't think. He said, I did what you said, and he dropped 6 pounds, or
Wow.
he's been struggling for years. So it's like, okay, well, now I'm just a little bit irritated. It's working for those that I'm telling it to, but it's like, what am I missing? And
Uh,
I think maybe it's, I don't even know. I don't even know exactly what it is. It might be maybe an impatience. Maybe that's just what it is. Because it's like, no, it doesn't matter. There's no time here.
can I offer something?
I'm getting, yes, please.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, the impatience for sure doesn't help, right? And when that pops up, because what it does is it just, yeah, keeps us more actively thinking. Um, the only thing that can interfere with true intention, the only thing that, here's even simpler. Okay, so this is so simple. The only thing that can interfere with you becoming more of yourself, and even then it can't really interfere. It's just that you're gonna miss it, but meaning you're gonna miss it from where you are, but you still become more of yourself. You don't really have any choice about this, but the only thing that can interfere is your own thinking. A
Mhm.
thought can interfere. Nothing else. It's that simple. All resistance to who I really am is a thought. All it is a thought against who I am and what I desire. I equate those two. I'm equating those two. Who I really am and all that I desire. I add that part in because who I really am is not fixed. And when I add in all that I desire, there is an expansion of that energy to more, right? So when I think against, in opposition to who I really am and all that I desire, it that will never feel good. So that will never feel good. Right away, we get the first indicator. It's all in the feeling. What's happening right now? Where's my attention and what am I noticing? So, to keep it simple with your example around these desires, very good practical example, like, oh, I want to lose weight or I want to create this business. Well, the trouble is on any manifestation like that, and a manifestation is something perceivable by me, it exists in a duality or a polarity, meaning that this business that I want, which is thriving, is only distinguishable because because of a polarity of scarcity in a business. So in other words, I have a thriving business. Well, how do you even distinguish that? Isn't that just a business? No, it's a thriving business. Well, what the hell's a thriving business? Well, it must be in a contrast, or you could not conceive of it. So, in order to conceive of a thriving business, there is a contrasting, devolving, scarce business. And this is what's so tricky. So, what are you noticing? What do you notice when you're giving attention to
Hi
business?
there,
And
Joel.
if you give attention to the
Hi.
part of
Um,
business that is the scarce side, which is what I do not want, right? Oh, it feels terrible. Feels terrible. It's like, oh, I hate my business. I don't think I can do this. I can't think, right? So when I'm focused on that side of it, the feeling will be right off. When I focus on what I want, which is a thriving business, which is what's becoming, how I'm expanding and becoming, it feels amazing because then it's my true intention. It is me, right? And that feels natural and it's effortless and it's easy to be me. Is that helpful?
Yes, yes. I can, yeah, thank you. I can see all kinds of things that brought a resistance up to doing it the right way and
Oh yeah.
the right price. And, yeah, a multitude of things. Thank you. Yeah.
It and let me just say that's so easy and so normal, right? This isn't unique to you. This is so easy to just end up there, right? Because here you are, you're doing something with your business or you're trying to, be in a relationship, you're not in a relationship. And then it's like, okay, but so what do you do? What do you do about pricing? And now we start listening to everybody else, right? But see, my listening to everybody else is there's no, I can't access wisdom through that. Wisdom I can only access through feeling. So feeling will tell me wisdom. So I have my own innate wisdom, this energy of all, the essence of all things, including the business that I want. Right? That energy is expressing through me in the expansion to all of this. And so when I sit here and I go, well, I don't know, I just can't figure this out. Let me see who's got this figured out and how I should price this thing, right? And so now I start listening. But see, if you pay attention to the feeling, it's like, oh my God, they're saying you need to do these really high prices and do this thing. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, that feels terrible. Then, I mean, that doesn't feel like it would help people, or that doesn't feel like I would be able to. And not only that, I'm not even sure I deserve rates like that or whatever, right? So now all of a sudden, and you can tell by the feeling that this kind of thinking is is deviating and is disharmonious from who you really are and all that you've become. And so, well, no wonder it feels bad. And that is not the becoming. Okay? So the who you're becoming is on the path of ease, effortless, and it's a joyful, good feeling path, right? So it's kind of like, okay, so I got to get realigned with myself and my wisdom and the thoughts that are flowing to me from that capital S self. Who have I become and who am I becoming? And as that flows, then I become more of who I really am. Yeah. Thank you. Great
Yeah.
question.
Thank you, Dominic.
Yeah. Awesome. Ethan, think you're next. Yeah. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you, Dominic. Yeah, so we've explored this in various ways, but I have a question about, what you wrote in the write-up of we don't need to ask who do I need to be
Right.
because, we just need to know who we are. And I'm wondering about how that relates to making a specific change. So we have these conditioned ways of being, as you were alluding to earlier. And if they've been there for decades and we want to make a specific change, it feels like that question, who would I need to be, could be helpful, or, or one of those declarations, like an example would be, I notice that I get inspired and then I hesitate because I don't know how this is going to work out. It's like this idea is too big. So it feels like a practice where I I have a statement. I act from inspiration without needing to know the outcome. It feels like having something like that, which is very specific, would be helpful because I can read it and I can see the contrast. And I can, and now set an intention to act in alignment with that, which is a way of behavior that is aligned with my true self. So I know that's more aligned with my true self. And so I can use that as an intentional tool, as a tool to make an intentional expansion in that area. So I'm wondering how
Yeah.
that sounds. And yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
Well, yeah,
sense.
it's a great, really good question. Um, so remember the becoming more. I, the example you gave around acting from inspiration, more in alignment or authentic, all of that. That description that you gave is absolutely being showing up as more of your true self. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. And so it's kind of like, so what does it take? What do I need to do? Well, yeah, what do I need to do to be myself? Well, there is no doing and being. There is no doing and being. Being is essence. Being is the truth, the essence, the energy of who you are. Being expresses itself through you via words and via actions. And these words and these actions result in something in the world. So, this being who speaks and acts a certain way impacts physically to manifestations. Things happen, clients sign up, money gets donated, like things happen because of these words and these actions. But what gets confusing about that is, but that did not happen because of the words and actions. When you really look, all that we call physical manifestation, material, what is there, like my business and the revenues it has and all of that stuff, that is all an expression of an energy. That is all an expression of beingness. And it only works in one direction. It only works as that formless energy expressing into infinite forms, including you and I. So, really, any time you find yourself saying that you can do anything in order to be something, it doesn't work that way. It's a misunderstanding. There is nothing you can do to be anything. There is nothing you can do to be who you already are. And who you already are is enough. In fact, it's more than enough. It is infinite potential and possibility. So just the idea of saying I need to be this in order to, that's another good thing to notice. Anytime those words get used, in order to, that's such something to pay attention to. Because being has no in order to. I be joyful for no reason. I be love for no reason. So just the in order to, again, has a bit of a trap to it. And all of this, everything we're saying, creates an interference with what would be natural and effortless. And what happens is this little guy, me, finite perspective, the conditioned one, you know how you said the conditioned self, the one that has these ideas that I'm now trying to overcome, this thinking that showed up here when I was, 8 and they laughed at me in school. So that little one is now trying to outsmart itself so it can free itself from this conditioning. But who exactly is coming up with this stuff? Who's coming up with these being statements? Who's imagining all this stuff? This little one that's trapped, this finite perspective. And meanwhile, there is the self with the capital S, who is constantly becoming more and more and more of itself, expanding itself. That's all you need, is an alignment and an allowing of who you really are. Once you never need to be anything. Once you realize who you are, you are expressing the true self and true intentions and true desire. All of that is, there's nothing more perfect, nothing more in alignment, right?
Okay, I think I hear you, Dominic. So it seems like then when it comes to the change, to create more of a change, so more alignment with the true self in any domain, because domain is doing, so that doesn't really matter. To create more alignment with the true self, the most power, the most leverage is always to then just realize that you are the true self, even deeper.
That's beautifully said. Know thyself. Shortcut to everything, right? My business sucks. My relationship's no good. I don't like where I'm living. Know thyself. And when to thy own self be true, be that self. Allow that self. The true self, the capital S self. And all of this is handled. When I'm like, but my business, it's like, it has to be bigger. I need something different. It's not enough right now. It has to be bigger. Well, here's what's useful is something is felt by you. Something is felt by you. Desire. Now, it's important to notice this feeling, because is this true desire, or is this reaction? So that kind of thing. Is it well, what's the difference? Well, I want my business to be bigger so that I can be secure and I can be free. Wait a minute. Do you know who you are? Do you know who you are? Your true nature is freedom. What's with this business thing? So I need a bigger business so that I can be free. Well, you don't know who you are. Because if you knew who you were, you would realize that who you are is pure freedom. Well, I need more money at least. Well, what's that about? Well, it's like abundance, right? Because there's scarcity, right? And so, well, your true nature is abundance, right? And it's like, well, so there is my desire coming from my true nature, my essence wanting more expression through me. I want to be more abundant. I want to be more free. I want to show up in greater like that. And if I tap into that, what becomes is irresistible doing. In other words, I couldn't stop myself from speaking and acting, making calls, doing things once I'm expressing true self, right? When I'm not expressing true self, what it is a whole bunch of resistance like, oh my God, I have to make these calls? Like I'm supposed to talk to people? Oh, I hate selling though. I hate doing this. It's like, well, you have to do it. How else will you build your business, right? And you know you're off right away because you're not tapped in. You're now in order to trying to you're you're working backwards trying to do a bunch of things so you could have something so that you can be who you really are. And it doesn't work that way. It's not backwards like that. It only everything is spiritual, and what we think is material is only spiritual manifestation. It is all spiritual expression. It's all spiritual. It's all energy. Is that helpful?
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm going to sit with that. Thank you, Dominic.
Love your question. Thank you. Hey, Rishi. Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, Dominic, speak something. I still see Ethan on the screen. Hey, good
Oh,
to see you
yeah.
though. Ah,
Very good.
wow, that was quite quick. I wasn't expecting that it was me next. Ah, this is beautiful. What I'm, what I noticed while you were speaking was I don't really have a say on feeling or not feeling negative or thinking or not thinking negative thoughts. But what I do have a say on is what I choose to use time, what I choose to do with time. And I can always choose to use time to notice what I'm thinking and feeling or not. That seems to me to be the extent of my free will, so to speak, is I
Mm.
can use time to notice what I'm thinking and feeling or not. And so that's the first piece. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. And second is how is, and this is something in my experience in the last month or so, is how quickly inspiration can turn into attachment.
Yes.
So I'd love for you to speak to both of them.
Yeah. Maybe we'll start with the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, inspiration can quickly turn to attachment because I have a feeling that there's more to me. I have a feeling that this current expression is not all there is to me. This expression is not it, right? So the feeling of that, the desire of that, the however you want to use those words, becomes discernible by me. I can feel it. And so I'm interpreting. Sydney Banks said that this formless energy comes into form. It's a formless energy that expresses into form via thought. Thought is focused consciousness. So it's a consciousness unfocused. Who I really am is a consciousness unfocused. And a focused consciousness is thought. It's all consciousness, right? So this formless energy comes into form via thought. So here I am, I have this feeling, this sense of there's more to me, and I feel more wanting expression, more love than I am currently, right? Expressing more abundance to express and experience. And so via thought, I interpret. Oh, I know what that is. That would be me in a relationship. like this, right? So you see, I translated an energy wanting more form in the world. That's what it is. Right? Notice how firm I became about it? Attached. I got it. It's that, right? A business, oh, it would be a 7-figure business. That's what this abundance would be, right? And just as I express it and hook into it, it can flip over now into attachment, as in, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I'm going to have to really work hard now, right? So I took this little idea, and the reason I say it's a little idea is because you have no idea how that energy could express into the world. But you do your best and you come up with something. And the thing you come up with is a 7-figure business, right? That's your interpretation of what that would mean. And as you hook into it and attach, it quickly turns into now a resistance to that true energy that was flowing through you. So it's useful to have some form to it, insofar as you are willing. Well, if it's a matter of understanding, it's like, wow, that would be great. Wow, being in a relationship, that would be great, right? So insofar as you're able to, if that feels good, what you're talking about feels good, then there's harmony in the energy of it. And realizing that this thing that you've come up with is so tiny in truth, because you interpreted from this finite perspective this tiny little thing. But from the perspective of who you really are, you have no idea. You couldn't even imagine what an expression of this would look like as you are becoming more and more of yourself. You couldn't even imagine what that would manifest into and what form that could take. So to the degree that you're hooked in and locked on this form, you are now in resistance to your true self. And very soon, this goal, this vision, this thing is just now going to start to become a big problem in your life. It's actually going to now start to create a resistance to you rather than furthering.
Yeah, I totally see it. It's there is that happens, and I notice there is always an assumption when that happens, that you use the word interpretation from the finite perspective to talk about that, is that that's what it means, and I'm pretty damn sure that's what it means.
Yes.
And I'm not ready to let go of that idea.
That's really good, because then you're no longer in exploration, and you're no longer open. You are no longer allowing this energy to flow. You are no longer allowing thought to flow. Now you're fixed. And here's the deal. That source energy, the truth of who you are, I mean, that is not flowing you thoughts for the creation of this manifestation that you got yourself locked into. So good luck to you, because there's no wisdom coming in the direction of the thing you're locked into, which you feel you need because you're not being whatever, which is totally false anyway, right? So that this is sort of the spin of the trap of this, and then it just becomes hard work because there's no wisdom in it. There's no thing. Now you got to do your own thinking. You got to do your own thinking, because this universe source energy is certainly not thinking about how to create that little thing that you came up with. And so you're not in flow, you're locked in, the thinking isn't going, you're not being moved anymore by this. Now you're trying to move yourself to achieve that so that you can be that person. The whole thing is,
Yeah. And I just looked at it a little differently, as you said. It looks like now it's no longer a creation resulting from an expression of this being. It has become a doing. It's like trying to get there and get it.
yes.
And just the saying of that is so much effort.
That's it. Yeah, it has to be, because now you're trying to achieve it through doing, through your own effort. And it is through your own effort, meaning your own finite effort, because you're no longer connected. You're always connected, but you're no longer flowing, allowing, being that true self to move you. You're like, I got it from here. You're sort of like, you got this inspiration, you interpreted it into that, and you said, thank you very much, I can take it from here. And now from a disconnection, look at me go, right? look at how great I am. I'm gonna achieve this thing. You're on your own at that point. Right?
I love it. I'm gonna clip that from the video recording. I'm gonna keep playing it every day in the morning. I love that.
Beautiful. Is that
Thank you for that.
maybe just for time we'll
Yeah.
stop there, and we'll thank you. Estelle, great to see you again, Estelle.
Dominique, good to see you too, and everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, so we attract what we focus on, right? Our energy grows on what we focus on.
You'll experience what you focus on. You'll experience what you look at. You'll experience what you give attention to.
So it's good to not to focus on the outcome only, but more on the process, on what do I want, why do I want it, yeah, and then transform what is unwanted into what do I want really, and to focus on that rather than focusing on what we don't want. And yeah, so because because we always compare things, right? And it's not that finite perspective is important because it gives us some information, but is not it helps us decide what we want and to assess also.
So yeah, consider that what you really want is already known from that broader perspective. And really also consider that what you really want is ever only one thing, and that is to know yourself, to know who you really are, and to be yourself.
Yeah.
And every single thing you want beyond that, every single thing that you want, to be in a relationship, to make money, to do all of this stuff, is in order to be happy.
Yeah.
And in order to be myself, in order to be who I really am.
Yeah. But does not define us. And so it's good to know, just like to step back and put things into perspective, and then refocus, and then zoom out, and then again, but things
yeah, you're pointing to, I think, as I hear you, you're pointing to the paying attention and feeling what happens as you give attention to something. Because as you give attention to something, Rishi's example, if you start giving attention to the goal and now it's starting to feel hard or feel bad, you're focused too specifically, and you are focused with your personal mind, and you are using your own thinking, personal thinking from this, which is very different than from a broader perspective, allowing that infinite intelligence or thought of source to guide and inform you, to move you. So if you go too specific looking at anything and it starts to feel bad, you have disconnected, you are in disharmony with who you really are and all that you've become. And so relax, back off, don't get too excited. There's no rush here. And you get gentler and gentler, and you flow back into, but you know, my life is fine. It doesn't matter whether this happens or not. Everything's working out anyway. So you sort of back up a little bit. Stop thinking so much, right?
Yeah,
Until you're back in harmony.
Into the context of school culture again, where there's a lot of standardized tests, standardization, like tests, and often the school just focus on the data. So, you know, like you get an A, you get a grade, whatever. And they forgot to tell the children what is it for, and that, you know, it doesn't define them. But so I was trying to find a solution to approach this in the school, this problem, and realizing that focusing on this problem will generate more of it. So come up with some solution, and yeah, rather than
so
excellent
example for context for people. You have a strong desire and something that you want to impact and contribute, which is in schools. You and I know each other, and so I know that part of you, that you have a strong desire to make a difference in schools and the way teaching happens and all of that. And this is so easy in that example to go in and see something different and see something different. You're inspired to something different. From your true self, you have vision of something far better than what there is today. And then the trickiness is that when you slip into protesting what there is today and making that wrong, that goes disharmonious to standing for and aligning with the vision and truth of what you want to contribute, what you want created through you. And so those energies are very different, and you can really feel that difference within you energetically. It's what tells you whether you're off track or not. I'm going to have to pause for a second. There's two more. I will stay on longer, but just for in case anyone needs to go. A couple of things just to close off. If you enjoy these seminars and this kind of teaching, and you're interested in applying more directly to things that are important to you in your life, similar to these, you know, the way we have these kinds of questions, if you go on my website, you will find a link for, I put it into the chat, for deliberate creator coaching. And so this is a way of taking these ideas, but you exploring what it is you're wanting to create, and then having this kind of a conversation around it. It is a very accessible way of working with a coach and being focused on what you want to create. One other thing that I offer that's also on the website is a coach mentoring program called Coaching Mastery. And Michael Fall and I think Michael's on this call as well. So Michael Fall and I do this Coaching Mastery program. And that program is if you are a coach. So if you are a coach and you already have some grounding or understanding in either 3 principles or this kind of thing, and what you're interested in is if you're interested in becoming more effective as a coach. So what we do is we don't really work on your grounding part, but what we do is we bring coaching principles. And what we help you to do is harmonize coaching principles. And so there's the link to that program as well. So you can take a look at those. And then one final thing, I'm going to be putting more and more sort of talks and different things onto my YouTube channel. And so you might want to go there and subscribe. And so that's just my name. When you go there, you'll see a channel and you can just subscribe there. So I'm going to put more sort of talks and webinars. So if this is of value to you, you can go there. All right, so I will stay on a bit. We'll just take last two, and then we'll close. But if you need to go, it's been great having you on the call. Bree, how are you? It's been a few months since we've been talking live.
Yeah, hi Dominic. Hi, how's it going?
Great.
This may have been answered, I don't know, but I'll just ask it anyways. What I notice is, okay, so I notice an inner, what would you say? Inner call, inner energy, inner desire for things, like a strong, desire to go in a certain direction or whatever. And then if I feel like I'm very far away from that, in a very different situation, or like there's a huge gap, I guess. I'm always aware of the big gaps sometimes between where I am and what's calling inside. I can get a real frustration feeling, and
Yes.
almost down, like an almost down feeling, because it feels like, I have an image in my mind as someone, and this isn't me, but just say someone, working at McDonald's, flipping hamburgers, and inside of them is this desire to be this amazing rock singer and travel the world and tour, but there they are with a little hat and, heat and, the chaos of McDonald's, as we can see in the back there. And the gap is so enormous, right? And, and I think, like, I know I can feel it. I'm sure other people do, that kind of frustration feeling, a little bit of a down feeling, a little bit of a like, oh my God, here I am, but wow, this is where I want to be. And I can feel it from within. Like, it's actually a pull. It's not just like an idea. There's actually this like pull inside that's trying to like pull me somewhere else, but here you are, I don't know. So that's kind of my question. It's sort of a question, I guess, is what to do with all that,
Yeah. Well, what you're describing is this feeling, this calling, this sense of, you're being called to something more. You're being called in a particular direction. Now, frustration can only come in when you don't go. Right? So, because to move, to allow yourself to move with it, it feels great. That's the feeling of inspiration. That's the feeling of interest, of excitement, of enthusiasm, of joy, of happiness. It feels great to move with it. It feels great to think in the direction of it. So if you take any emotion like frustration, worry, pessimism, so the emotion is created by a thinking against it. So this is too big. It's going to take forever. I don't even have the skills to do this. How's this even going to happen? I don't even know anyone in it. I'll never be able to go there. So now if the thinking starts to move, and and these thoughts just happen, and some of them are very habitual, like, it's like, well, I've never been able to do these things, or I've never been good at this stuff. Like, so they're just habitual. They're just floating around. But then they float around and they get your attention, and you kind of go, oh, what was that? Well, the minute you do this, right, now you grab the thought, you hooked it, and now it's like, oh, there's a thought, that's interesting. And that thought now you harmonize with that thought. You can't do this. What do you think you're doing? You've never done anything like this. And then as you harmonize with this thought, the vibration of the thought is equivalent to more thinking that is like it. And it starts to draw in more and more thinking. And you're literally starting to see a reality in the world consistent with this. That's frustrating because the desire's wanting movement here, but it's being resisted with thoughts against. And so it will never feel good. And then those feelings can be frustration is one, it can be pessimism, it can be hopelessness, it can be a worry about it. Many, many feelings, but they're all in resistance. Yeah.
So part B of the question is there are a lot of people who don't move towards that call. And then there are some people in the world that do, and you see them doing it. And what I've always been interested in too is like the people that do will also do something else. Like there'll be a famous actor, but then there'll also be a famous artist, or, you know, there'll be a famous singer, and then they'll write children's books that are famous. You know what I mean? Like there seems to be people that do seem to follow it somehow. And then a lot of people who don't. And I've always been a little bit curious about that and kind of like, well, what's the difference? You know?
Yeah. I love what you're saying about those multiple talents, because once you allow the movement, let's say in painting, it becomes like now you have the feeling of that, the feeling of not doubting it and simply following an interest or an inspiration. So now you have the feeling of that, you trust it. So now when it comes to, you know, sculptures or writing books, you already have a sense of the feeling of this essence, true self expressing through you. And you now have an experience of, you can see what happens as you follow it. So it becomes easier, potentially, as you trust it to be able to do this in more and more ways, more and more places. What's kind of core in all of it is you've got to care about how you feel. If you don't care about how you feel, then you're willing to tolerate feeling bad. You're willing to tolerate that. And the feeling bad, if you, just to be clear, is all because of thought against who I really am and what I desire. And there is no way that you can focus against the truth of who you are and what you desire and feel good about it. If you focus against yourself, it will feel bad. And if you're willing to tolerate feeling bad, then it will continue to feel bad, and it will get worse and worse and worse until it gets your attention enough to say, okay, stop insisting on that direction and staying with it and insisting that that's the truth and that this thinking is real and you'll never be able to do this and it'll never work out for you, right? Let go of that. That's just not true, right? So just drop it, because out of dropping it, there's relief. And so, yeah, so that's a bit of, thank you. All right. And Damien, you're our last one up.
Mr. Dominic, good morning, sir.
Hey, good seeing you again. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate everything you do. You know, you're very clear. So the last question the girl just asked, well, it's really everything that everybody asked. Like you said, how do I get a new title? I keep talking about the same thing.
Yes. Yes.
So my thing, okay, so the last thing that you explained on the last recording about the 3 Ps are specific instructions, and Abraham is more digestible for me, you know. You said something that was very loud, like the last girl that just spoke. You said something before with the other guy, like, my desire is, okay, so I have Abraham, I have Dominic, I have Joe Dispenza, and all the same, meaning outside influences influence you, which is normal, but that's not the truth. The truth is I let it. I get that. What you said loud today was, I became a certified drug and alcohol counselor. I stopped that because once you're this, you're always this. I don't believe that. Then I did some coaching, and it got to be too much work. I got to do this. The desire felt good and you said something very loud. The desire felt good, but the goal got too strong that it became work. Like you said, just back off. So you kept talking about thoughts getting in the way. I get that. Now, what I didn't hear you say, or maybe you said it, it wasn't clear or loud enough. I get thoughts getting in my way 1,000%. How do you add thoughts like when like people that are stuck on stupid are not stupid, they just get stuck there. I get that. I somebody who's really messed up, I see the light, I don't see the dark. That's a strong desire in me, which the truth is it's not my desire, it's the universe's desire that came to me. Okay.
Good.
So when my thoughts get in the way to create static, what thoughts can I add to not tarnish the desire of the goal? Is that clear?
Yeah, that's a very good question too, because, um, like a very good question, right? So when thoughts get in the way, the last thing I'd want to do is add thoughts to the thoughts, right? So
Got that.
yeah, so be that's something to be conscious of. Um, I've been playing with this recently, but so you have a desire, and I know within you there's strong desire for some things you want to do in the world and want to contribute, and you're very good at it, right? So that comes through you, and you feel that, right? So whether it's coaching or working with certain people, and then if you just let that flow, it feels good to dream about it, envision it. At some point or any point where you notice it feels bad, meaning pessimism, like any disharmonious feeling, you cannot feel anything without thinking something. So you cannot feel anything without thinking something. So if you take one of these desires and you tell me like, oh yeah, I'm really discouraged or whatever it is, if you'd want to play with one, we can kind of look at it and see what we can see with it. So what's an example?
Okay.
There's yeah.
Okay. Okay, and you said it. Okay. So I worked at, so I haven't done it. I've been stuck for over a year. I haven't done nothing. Okay. When I worked at rehabs, they gave me the worst of the worst and I would get through to them. Okay. So coaching is very exciting. Helping people wake up is very exciting. I got to make phone calls to look for, you hit it so perfect. I can make phone calls to clients. I got to, once it feels a little draining, it's
Yeah.
like people will be yelling at me, Damien, you work with the worst of the worst. You got through. Why are you doing nothing? I let static. If it doesn't feel good, I shut down.
Okay.
So I'm being
So
selfish of my gift waking people up, and I've been stuck there.
well, and your question was really good at the beginning, because what you said is what should, like, it's almost like, how do I plow through it? In other words, how do I think on
You
top of
froze for a
it
second. Don't
so
leave.
strong? It's like wanting to think on top of it so strongly that you can overcome it, and that's a big trap, right? Like
Or
there's so sorry, it froze a bit. You still there? I'll just continue to comment. Um, so if you
come on, God, I'm working patience.
oh, here you're there. You're back. Okay. So this desire comes from a broader, bigger you. Let's the true self, your big capital S, right? Self. The desire's coming through from there. You are feeling it within you. And so the moment you feel discouragement, or like you said when you said, well, but I don't want to make these calls, or that feels like hard work to me, like any of these kinds of thoughts that begin to now create a resistance, What you know for sure, well, we can test it out. The thought of it's too hard to find clients. It's too hard to find the people that to work with. It's a simple question. Is that a thought from the personal mind, or is that a thought of source? Who says something like that? It's too hard.
That would be my
sorry, you're breaking up, but that would be the personal mind. So here you are, inspired to create something and to go make a difference in the world. And now you start to listen to the thought from a little guy who I don't even know where the thought came from, but from some time ago, and maybe as a kid or something that happened to you. And then this thought comes. Look, Damien, you can't do this, right? You can't do this, or people aren't going to listen to you anyway, right? So that thought is not the thought of source. That is not wisdom. And we catch that thought. It feels terrible, right? Feels terrible the minute I think about it. And then all of a sudden, I want to explore it a little bit. It's like, what kind of nonsense is that? This is a thought that you can tell in the feeling can be dismissed. It's a habitual thought. It's shown up a lot. Just
so would a positive thought be? So would a positive thought be? Would positive thought be? You are people. You wake them up. That feels good. Period. Stay out of the way. Don't do. Don't do nothing. Hold on, Elliot. He's in the car, right? I'm doing something. Oh God, God's making me work out. It's okay. You know what? You're the best. So this is the deal. So something you said that was very loud. The goal gets too scary. Back off. When you work with somebody and you help them wake up, does that?
Okay, given the connection, I'll just sort of take over and we'll close this. Oh, you may have even dropped off. We'll see. You can listen back, Damien. So when you take over and start to do your own thinking, you're cutting yourself off from the wisdom of what inspired that vision within you in the first place. Now, the thoughts of source, when you allow them, are never discouraging thoughts. They are never hopeless thoughts. Can you imagine this? It's like source inspires you to want to work with people with addictions or make a difference with this group or that group. And then the next thought that comes is going to be a thought that says, oh, but you'll never be able to do this, and you don't even have what it takes. I mean, it's illogical. So if this is the vision inspired within you, then that same place where it came from contains within it all of the detail, all of the how, all of the unfolding. But for that, you need to listen. You can't be talking, right? So you can't be conjuring and thinking up how to get this done. You've got to tune in and feel and listen for the promptings and the impulses of what's next and how to do next. The universe is infinite intelligence. Who you really are is the energy of all things. It is an infinite intelligence. Your little problem of how to build a business where you do this or that is really not a big deal for the universe. The universe has created galaxies. It knows the steps from where you are into a business where you are working with people and making a difference for them. That is not complicated. So
So how do you, and you kept going, I have to listen to the recording. The last 3 minutes, you kept going in and out. I
Yes.
got disconnected, connected. It's okay. A thought comes your way, static, don't put any energy towards that. Okay. So just keep putting energy towards, you like a blue car? You like a blue car. You don't like it red, you don't like yellow, you like blue. Just go with that. People that get stuck keep showing up. Don't worry about if you're supposed to do a business or not do a business. Just keep disconnecting from your mind and learn how to add feelings to connect with the universe, and that's it, period.
So the last part I think you hit, right? I don't know about the beginning of that, but the last part is you're going to feel your way to this project and business that you want. You will feel your way to it, not think your way to it. You
Okay,
will
because anything, if there's even a breath, and you touch on this a lot. If there's even a breath, you have to sit still and have a business plan. You have to work with. If there's any have to, I shut down.
Well, and here's the thing, you're in good company because God didn't have a business plan, right? For the solar system and the universe, God
Right.
didn't start with the business plan. So you're in good company in that you seem to resist that, right? So it doesn't inspire you, and that's not a problem. That will not prevent you, will not get in the way of you creating what you want.
I don't know what I want, but for a good question is, you talked about, you started doing coaching and you're like, oh, I got to make phone calls and do this. How did you welcome where you needed to go and not fight your resistance?
Well, this is where it goes back to the feeling, and in my conversation with Bree, it's about you've got to one, you pay attention, you notice the feeling, you notice, and you've got to care about how you feel. Sydney Banks said wisdom is only in a positive feeling. God never speaks to you in a way that is discouraging or putting you down or pessimistic or angering you.
Right. Okay.
Wisdom is only in a positive feeling. So you've got to care about how you feel. And when you hear the thought that says, you're never going to figure this out, Damien, and you don't even like doing this stuff, you're not even good at it, and you won't even have any credibility, that nonsense is not the voice of God. It's nonsense. Right? And so to engage with nonsense, and when you feel the nonsense, right, makes no sense at all, right?
What's the difference of your call to do this and a desire? I feel called to do this, but it feels like too much work. That's just your
Well,
thinking getting
you
in the
said
way.
the last part.
I just caught
You
it. I
said
just
the
I just
last
caught
part.
that. I just caught that.
Yeah, you're saying the last part. And there's nothing wrong with it. All it is notice it. See, the part that feels good is, oh my God, I could just see myself doing this. I make such a difference for people. I've had such great feedback on this. I have helped people enormously. I love the idea of doing this full time. I love the idea of that. Stay there. The minute you get into the next thought,
How
it's
do I
like,
put this together? That gets in
how
the
do you
way.
put it together?
Perfect.
How do you think you're even going to do this if you don't get an action? You don't blah blah blah. You don't even have a business plan. Blah blah blah. Nonsense. Now you're into nonsense, right?
Okay.
So you
So
stay with the feeling, and in the feeling you will find more thoughts like it, all moving in the direction of who you
okay.
really are and all that you desire.
All right. So I know you're in overtime. So
Yes.
you're coaching twice a month. That would expand on this.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. This is exactly the kind of work we do, is like you take something that is important to you, and that's what we do in Deliberate Creator. So in Deliberate Creator, we do this. We do
That's the
these
twice a month.
conversations.
That's the twice a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So I'll go on your website. I'm gonna sign up for that because there's two
Awesome.
things I'm working on. Everywhere as I went, all the rehabs, you, Abraham, Byron Katie, Joe Dispenza is all the same thing. We all work outside the box. Meaning once you're this, you're always this. It's not true. And that's what I want to go after. And that's what I'm going to work on in that group with you, because staying still is enough. Can't do it no more.
Awesome. You
Dominic,
have, yeah.
good. Thank
You
you.
have
God,
great
listen.
gifts. You have great
I'm not
gifts
using
to
it.
give.
I'm not using it. I've done nothing
Yeah.
for.
It's
I've done
okay.
nothing. All
It's
right.
okay.
All right.
You can look forward to doing it. So,
Oh, yeah.
all
I'll
right.
sign up.
Well,
Thank you, sir. Big
yeah.
hug and
Thank you.
appreciation for going over time.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's very
And
appreciated.
thanks everyone. This has been a great call. Appreciate everyone staying on overtime, and this recording will go up. This recording will go up in a few hours, and you'll get an email for the replay of it. And we'll see you all again. See you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you, Dominic.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Dominic, as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Good seeing you. Thank you.
Bye, Dominic.
Bye. Thank you. Hey, Sherry, how are you? Great. Thanks.
I got